Hi, this is Mike Fry, and you are listening to the We Fucking Told You So podcast. Today is February 21st, 2025, and today's installment is titled Number 3 is Circling the Drain. New data shows him very unpopular and adds support to other data that proves he stole the 2024 election. If we needed any more evidence that Trump stole the 2024 election, we just got a pile of it in a string of new polls that have been best presented by Rachel Maddow. Though Maddow did not present the data exactly that way, combined with other data that we have previously reported on, and some other data we've not previously reported, the picture gets pretty clear. Trump, with the help of Vladimir Putin, stole the election. Before we go farther, however, we need to take a quick look into the data that we've not reported on, explain why we haven't reported on it, and why we are now. We're also going to explain why we don't even need it to conclude that Trump stole the election, which is one of the reasons we've not reported on it to date. With all that said, here's a quick dive into data in a series of letters titled Duties to Warn by cybersecurity expert Stephen Spoonamore. Spoonamore's letters focus primarily on data that's been widely verified. Yet much of the rest of what he wrote in his letters has been heavily panned by the media, almost universally. He's been labeled a conspiracy theorist and worse by many. Yet even in their critiques of his letters, those opposing him get many of the facts wrong. We've been growing increasingly uncomfortable with that fact, and so we decided to finally link to his warnings, which were anything but extreme. Spoonamore was simply requesting that the Harris campaign seek recounts in the 7 swing states. That hardly seems a radical suggestion. In looking at Spoonamore's data, and the general response to it, we've concluded that where the response to him went off the rails was when non-technical people tried to interpret Spoonamore's explanation of how number 3, aka Felon 47, with the help of Elon Musk, could have hacked the election. In his efforts to demonstrate that a hack of the election was actually possible, he outlines a relatively straightforward way that it could have been done. He did not say for certain, quote, "this is how they did it," end quote. In other words, Spoonamore's critics, in very broad strokes, got his message very wrong. They also got many of his details wrong, with many griping that voting machines are not connected to the internet. Yet in Spoonamore's scenario, he addressed that fact quite clearly, which has left us more questioning of those claiming to be fact-checking his work than of his work itself. When you combine the Spoonamore data with that of Greg Palast, who painstakingly documented how Republicans stole at least 3.5 million votes from Harris in 2024, then the new polling data that everyone seems so surprised about suddenly makes perfect sense, because what it shows is that number 3 was never really popular, is strongly supported by only a quarter of the U.S. population, while he's strongly opposed by a very large chunk of it. Not only is he widely despised by a large swath of Americans in general, on issue after issue, his policies on things like the economy, foreign policy, and education are highly unpopular, even with Republicans. Most importantly, his numbers started low, the lowest of any other modern presidency when first taking office, and are dropping quickly. Keeping in mind that when any president first takes office, there's always a honeymoon period. Right now, according to history, number 3 and his administration should be at their most popular, yet his current approval rating is worse than any other president since 1953 at this point in the presidency. Ponder that as you watch Republicans in the House and Senate as they grovel to him and march in lockstep with him as he openly works to destroy our government by appointing a trove of people to high positions that have ties to Russia, including Elon Musk, who's been reported to have been meeting with Vladimir Putin regularly for at least 2 years. It's almost as if these Republicans are not worried at all about needing to be reelected or being very unpopular. Given Putin's penchant for meddling with elections in the USA, this all seems like a lot of material pointing to the fact that Musk and Trump almost certainly worked with Putin to steal the 2024 election. Pretending that isn't at least a strong possibility, while also continuing to follow a man the Constitution says is disqualified from holding the office, seems like total lunacy, particularly when the survival of the USA is literally at stake. As more and more data continues to come out pointing to the fact that we are experiencing a hostile coup orchestrated by Russia, we will continue to say, "We fucking told you so," as we continue to watch him circle the toilet. You have been listening to the We Fucking Told You So podcast. Please like and subscribe and share on your social media. Thanks for listening.